Okay, here we go. This could be round three. Our third trade for the day. The signal's flashing on and off, so it's not quite. We haven't got the signal yet, but it's close. So I just want to get ready here. Figure out which strikes I'm going to sell. And this is our second scale up. So we're going to 3 contracts now. This is the first time we've done 3 contracts, so that's exciting. So let's see here. If I move these up to... What's that dog doing out there? That must be the mailman. Mailman! So we could get $1 there. So the signal still hasn't come on yet. So we're just kind of waiting, twiddling our thumbs, seeing if the signal will come on and stay on. Nothing yet. I'm going to pause this while I'm waiting. It's the signal's kind of just like flickering on and off. So it could go, but it could not. I'm just not going to sit here and waste your time waiting for the signal to come on. So I'm going to pause, and then when we get close, if we get close to putting the trade on, I'll turn it back on. Actually, it's making a move now. Let's see. Are you going to do it? He's just teasing me. No, it looks like we're going to get this. And we'll probably have to go up a strike. So let's see if we can get $1. Oh, shoot. Yeah, it's just kind of teasing me here, coming on and off, or flickering on and off. Let me see if I can get 10. If I can get 10, let's try it. See if we get lucky. So confirm and send. Here it is working. So it's showing 105. So that's pretty good. Oh yeah, we may get filled there. This is exciting. This is our first 3 contract trades. So we've scaled up. There we go. We got filled. Okay, so we have that filled at 110. So let's come down here. We're going to lock this in at 110, which it is. And then I'm going to go ahead and set my automatic profit target exit order.
Order filled.
Ooh. And I'm not sure what is this one going to be. This is like a different... I don't know if you've ever gotten 110 before. How do I figure that out? See, if it was 1... it would be... Wow, that's pretty good. So we get 60. So this is 3 contracts, though. So we'll get $150 on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up to go. Create duplicate order. Buy back at 60. See if we're off and running there. So that's set up. That's going. Oh, look at this. It's moving against me here. Pretty good. So that's set to exit if we hit our profit target. Let's go to the actual trade now. Check it out. Oh yeah, this is moving against me here. Oh boy. Well, we'll wait and see. Let me see what I got going on up here. Okay, so I'm gonna let this work. So our exit on this is 300. That's our loss. Our stop loss is once we hit minus $300. If we hit minus $300, that's where we get out, and our profit target is $150. So we're well on. Looks like we're well on our way to that 300 stop loss. We're at 100 now, so this thing is just kind of really moving. We'll wait and see. Meanwhile, while we're waiting, we'll put on old Richard Doty again. So this is what we were watching in our last trading session. It's this Air Force guy. He's a legit dude. He was like he really worked for the Air Force, And he said that like he was running like kind of like a disinformation campaign, and he talks about all this UFO stuff like it's just common everyday things. It's crazy. So let's start this back up.
But the more I looked into this, there was something to this. He was actually photographing extraterrestrials. Not so much of a creature, but of their reconnaissance or their small orbs that they used to conduct experiments on humans. And he had, I don't remember how many, but he had a whole group of pictures that I told him, the next time you take any pictures with he had a Canon 35 millimeter, one of those, well, at that time it was new. He had a Canon 35 millimeter, and I told him, I said, if you ever take any pictures of UFOs, don't develop them, let us do it. And he said, okay. So he calls me one day, he says, got a whole roll of 32 or 30, whatever many he's in one of those rolls of photographs of these UFOs that I took over at the base. So I went out, picked them up, took them over to our secure photo lab, gave them to our secure developer, and said, "Hey, develop these." And I stayed there, watched, wait. I said I wanted some 3x5s and 8x10s and whatever you can. So an hour later, however long it took, he comes out with them. He says, "What the hell are these things?" And they're oval-shaped crafts flying above planes that were landing at. Now, Kirtland Air Force Base shares a field with Albuquerque International Airport. So planes coming in, these things would fly right over top of them and then veer off.
Were these more like orbs, or were they structured?
No, they were structured. And I can't remember how many photographs there were, but they were structured crafts. And we had them blown up. I mean, the photo guys could do a lot. We had them blown up. I mean, whereby these crafts were about as big as the Corona crafts, and they were exactly. Oh, absolutely, details, struts, the bottom of it. Well, there was one particular one, and these were color photographs, showing a blue trail coming out of the bottom of the craft, which is probably the energy device. And we sent them all up to headquarters, and I don't know whatever happened to them.
Were they seamless?
They were seamless, yeah. Seamless. Yeah.
And did whatever happened to these photos, or were there any videos, or was it all photographs?
No, all photographs. He never did any videos.
Okay.
No. Now, he didn't do a video, but we had a video that was brought to us at the base of this guy who lived in Placitas, north of Albuquerque, lived in the mountains. He was retired Air Force. I believe he was a pilot. And he had a video camera setting up, and he was watching animals. He lived in a remote area, and deer and elk would come up to his back area, and he was pretty much filming that. He was a wildlife amateur photographer. But one night, he heard a noise, went out, and this craft hovering right over his backyard, and he took a video of that. It was about 28 seconds or something like that before the craft took off. And that is the only video of a legitimate video. We took the video, the camera, and everything, because you always want to analyze all this stuff together. And we sent up to headquarters. They sent him a check back to pay for that camera, because they were going to give him that camera back. And they were going to give him, and he wanted copies of that, but he never got that back. They classified it. Whatever happened to the stuff we sent up, I don't know.
Where did you send it to specifically?
OSI headquarters.
Office of Special Investigation.
Yeah, Air Force Office of Special
Where is that?
Investigation. At that time, it was at Bowling Air Force Base, headquarters at Bowling. We sent it to headquarters at IVOE, which is the counterintelligence location, and then they would send it over to NSA. And the only reason I know that was years later, after I retired, I joined a pretty closely knit group of former and retired intelligence officers, and we get together every year. I haven't attended every single year, but out of 25 years, I probably attended 20 of these reunions or get-togethers, and normally they're after or before the UFO convention at Laughlin. Well, it used to be at Laughlin, now it's at in Arizona, and we'd sit down and talk. We just sit down and talk about in a secure, kind of a semi-secure place, and talk about what we know, and that's why I learned a lot from them, because they were briefed in programs I wasn't briefed into. And one of the intelligence officers was from NSA. And when I first met him in probably 94, 95, and I had never met him before, I didn't know him before, he said, I always wanted to meet you because you and I were on the same case together. I said, what case? He said, Paul Bennewitz. I said, what do you mean, Paul Bennewitz? He says, yeah, we interviewed him too. So they were investigating, and we were investigating, and we didn't know they were investigating. One particular night at Paul Bennewitz's house, it was rainy night, winter, kind of fall. I was there, and Jerry Miller was there, and Paul was showing us different things. And Paul came to me and he said, you see that house across the street? The front of this house. I said, yeah. He said, you see those lights in that upstairs window? I said, yeah. He said, they're not supposed to be there. I said, what do you mean? He said, the house is vacant. I said, I said, I wonder who's over there. So I got a gun, and so I go down and I snoop around, and I see the two vehicles parked hidden in the back yard. One's actually in a yard. So I get the license numbers off these vehicles. And the next, I didn't want to go in. I figured, well, maybe they're buying the house or whatever. So the next day, I ran the plates, and they come back to a rental company out of Hertz, I think it was, out of Denver, and they were rented on a government credit card. So I thought, okay, now go ahead. I don't know, a week or 2 weeks later, we were there at the same time, and we see these lights. Well, these lights are, you can tell, camera lights, the old red lights coming out, seeing that there's cameras pointed over here. I said, I'm going to get them this time. So I call Albuquerque police contacts I had, tell them what I had, and tell them somebody come over there.
Order filled.
And we confront these two guys, and they had to tell us that they were special agents, and they rented this place. That's about all they said.
Order filled.
So I
Did
knew.
they say what agency?
No, they didn't. And APD was, I was off base. I didn't have much jurisdiction there, so Albuquerque Police Department had to, I was just relying on them. They ID'd them. It was confirmed that they rented the place, so I was left at that. But this agent I met years later told me, he said, we investigated that one. We investigated the abduction up at Springer. I didn't know this. So NSA was intimately involved in this stuff too.
Do you know any other agencies or any of these other gentlemen you've met with?
DIA, of course, CIA. We have quite a few members of our group from the CIA. They weren't. They didn't do any field work because the CIA couldn't do that, but they were relying on a lot of information that we were feeding them, and they were doing analytical studies of what they had, but the FBI, of course, was involved in it. Well, they found a box, a cylinder, I should say, not a box, a cylinder on the Ebencraft that had been analyzed at various locations, and Sandia had it. And in 1984, President Reagan came to Sandia and was going to be specifically briefed on this. And I happened to be part of the security detail. And I was in the room when they was explaining this to him. And this cylinder
Order filled.
they had a electron microscope view of it, or however they figured out how to X-ray it or whatever they did to it. But they had cutouts of it and a presentation on an overhead projector, and they were explaining to the president what they thought these things did. And it was a multi-purpose avionics device that was also a navigation device for them. And so that's really the only technology that I've ever learned or heard that Sandia was involved with.
Do you know any further extent to which President Reagan was being read into these various projects or information?
I was told one of our members of our former intelligence group was a Secret Service agent. He was a Secret Service agent for some years, and then he went over to the CIA. And he told us that one of the most fascinating things about Reagan was he believed, and he was briefed. He didn't see it or know it, but he knew of others, Secret Service agents, that told him that when he took office on January, whenever it was, 20th or whenever, of 81, he immediately asked for a briefing. Before the Iran, we still had hostages in Iran. Before the Iranian, he even addressed that issue, he says, I want to be briefed on everything we have on UFOs. He sat in the Oval Office and said that. And they said, yes, Mr. President, we'll do that. So he knew, he was never there when he was briefed, but he knew of it. I went to Washington to get a award for something I did, which is still somewhat classified, and I met the president. I never talked to him about this subject, but he knew something because he said to me, I know you work on some very interesting things out there. And that's all I said. We didn't go, I didn't have a whole lot of time. We were in the Oval Office for, maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it was. And he gave me something, and he gave me presidential cufflinks. But and I knew I knew what he was talking about. He never actually said anything, but I knew that he knew, which was nice because you recognize, you think, wow, what I'm doing out there is being briefed all the way up. There was a UFO cover-up live that was aired in October of 1988. I don't remember what channel, but and a year before, in August of '87, myself, Dr. Kit Green, Dr. Hal Puthoff, Ernie Keller-Strauss, Carl Dale, several of us, and Robert Collins went to Dayton, Ohio, and had a meeting in a room. And this producer who produced the UFO Cover-Up Live was there, and he wanted to interview us all. And most of them said no. I said, well, what do you want to talk about? He said, I want to talk about this UFO thing. I said, I won't do it on camera. Well, we sat down in a room, in a hotel room to do the interview. He interviewed me. He gave me a list of questions first, and he said, "Read the questions. Do you have any problems with any of those questions?" I said, "No, I don't have any problems with it." Well, yeah, actually there were a few that I said I can't talk about this and this and this. I think it's 3 or 4. Anyways, he interviews me. There was one cameraman and him, and he said he would turn the camera off and say, Can you actually elaborate more, or what he was trying to do was tell me what to say. And I told him right away, I'm not going to play your games. I'm going to tell you what I know and what I did. I'm not going to tell you about anything else. I'm not going to tell you anything classified. I'm going to tell you about the Kirtland incident and about what I saw, but that's it. So he put me on back, and maybe another 5 minutes. Wasn't much more than that. And he started that again. I said, you know what? I'm terminating this. And I walked out of the room. Now, on the UFO Live, they have somebody that they claim to be me. And the beginning of it, the first probably 30 seconds, is in fact me, it blocked out. But everything else was dubbed in. Somebody else was talking for me. And that really upset me. And of course, then they say, well, you were live. You were there live. Impossible. I was going to the State Police Academy in Santa Fe during that time period. I started at the State Police Academy in 1st of August and graduate until December. On that particular night, I was isolated inside that dormitory and not even able to watch the let alone being on it. So that was all a hoax. That was all made up. And who dubbed for me? I think it was Robert Collins, to tell you the truth. But and almost positive that was him. And by the way, Robert Collins and I are not friends at all. Absolutely not friends. He published a book in 2006 with my name on it that I had absolutely no input into that book.
Good to know.
So people who say, well, you wrote a book. I didn't write any book. I gave him information to put in the book. About 20% of what I gave him went into the book, and the rest of it never went into the book. And that book right now, I'll swear to it that there's probably about 20% that is factual in that book. And there's probably 40 or 50% that's speculation. And then there's the rest of it is absolutely lies. They're hoaxes. I spent a number of assignments to Nevada, and I know that they were reverse engineering. I was never actually briefed on it, but common sense can tell me that this craft over here isn't something we made, or it's based on something they designed. The only exception to that is the Cash Landrum incident in 1980. I know for a fact, I was involved in that. I know for a fact that that craft was piloted by Air Force pilots. It was based on a extraterrestrial craft that we'd had, and it was reverse engineered, but the propulsion system failed, as a malfunction in some manner, spurring out radioactivity, and I know that for a fact. But that's the only reverse engineering, other than the cylinder that at Sandia. I understand that was reverse engineered into the 117. I was at the Nevada test site, which is now the Nevada National Security Site, what you call Area 51, which was at that time Det 3 Test Center. It's Area 51, but it was at that, when I was out there in the 80s, it was called Det 3 Test Center out of Edwards. There was a detachment of test personnel from Edwards Air Force Base assigned to Area 51. And Area 51 is just a plot on the map based on the Nevada test site, all the different areas within that. So, but everybody calls it Groom Lake Complex. Actually, there's two different locations out there. There's the test site, there's the Det 3 site, and then there's Groom Lake. That's two different sites. People are sometimes confusing it, thinking it's the same. And then Papoose is an auxiliary site that actually has the underground entrance.
Have you been in that?
Absolutely, I've been through the whole site. Yep, I spent 9 months out there as a counterintelligence officer. We had a facility at the Area 51
Order filled.
that would blind. We would shoot a laser up and blind the Soviet satellites as they came over, blind their cameras so they couldn't photograph anything. And not only did we blind the Russians, we would blind anybody else's satellites that would come over. So it's very difficult to get actually photographs during that time period of Area 51. And now I don't know that they have that out there anymore. I've been out for a long time.
What year was that you were?
81 and 85.
And when
Was
you
there
were
two
out at
different
that facility, did you see any man-made?
All right. I think I heard the chime, the Thinkorswim chime. There we go. We got filled at 60. So we're 3 for 3 today. Not too shabby. So we made $150 on that one. Let's go over to our Excel sheet. Here we go. So this is 122. This is the triple dip. 3 for 3. And this was a scale up of 3 contracts. So I should make some sort of note of that. What I should do is just take this and come down to here. I'll put scaled up there. Let's say scaled up to 2 contracts. And then this will be scaled up to 3 contracts. Scaled up to 3. Come on. Okay. So we made 150 on that one. We were in that trade for how long? Pretty good. Like, let's say 25 minutes. 25 minutes. The risk on this was what? 1170. Wow, we're getting up there. $11.70. I'm just going to tag this over here as a triple dip. And let me just redo these numbers. So we go, these are the wins. Let's take this down to, come on, like that to there, we'll say. So 21.25 wins. $640 in losses. So the total of that is $14.85. Not too shabby. Okay, let's as it's probably very apparent, I have no idea what I'm doing with this Excel. I'm just kind of stumbling my way through this. Oh yeah, but I get it to work though for what I need. Okay, so there's our totals. So that's great. Look at that, we're at $14.85. Okay, so that's it for this one. And as always, if you'd like to follow along with me in these trades, just make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel below. Also, go over to my website and join me there. Sign up for my free email newsletter over there, and you'll get a welcome email from me. Just reply back to that welcome email, and we'll go from there. All right, thanks. This is probably the last one for today. It's getting too late in the day to put on another one. All right, so that's it for this one. See you next time.